I'll break it down with an analogy. Before I do that, though, those who there's an African proverb. It says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And anything that is really going to influence society, transform people, business, nonprofit, church, organization where leadership is required. No one person has the point of view that sees everything. I think God kind of designed it that way. I mean, even in the Bible, it says, Paul says, we have the mind of Christ. He talks about in one of his epistles. He doesn't say, I have the mind of Christ. He says, we. It alludes to this, we need each other's perspectives and viewpoints. Because if I think the way I'm seeing it is the way everybody else is seeing it, then I'm going to operate as though everybody is seeing things the way I'm seeing them. And when they're not on page with what I'm doing, get frustrated as to, well, what do you mean you don't understand? What do you mean you can't see it? Well, if I don't take the time to understand their perspective, how they're seeing it, and what it is they're doing, there's going to be a constant butting of heads. But when we can come together and communicate and understand, it enhances everybody's vantage point. Let me give you an example, okay? Let's take 4 people at a football game, okay? You got a player, all right? Player on the field, okay? You got a coach, all right? And then you got someone in the lower bowl, in the first 30 rows or whatever. And then let's take somebody way up in the nosebleed seats, okay? All 4 people are watching or participating in the exact same event. All of them. There's nothing different happening. It's all the same thing happening in that space for whatever, 3 hours, 4 hours, however long, the game goes. You're a player on the field, though, you're going to have a much different perspective of what's going on. And after the game, if someone asks you and you're elaborating on up close, personal, in your face, banging heads, the blood, sweat, tears, if you will. You're elaborating on right down in the trenches. They asked the coach next, what was the game like? Well, his perspective is standing right on the edge of the trenches. And good coaches, when their players come out, they're asking them, what's it like in there? What's the speed of that certain player? Tell me the look from your perspective. They want a different perspective. But if somebody asks after the game, the press asks them, tell us about the game. They're going to have a little bit different point of view. Exact same event. It wasn't different, but they're going to elaborate on it completely different. Take another step back, and now you get someone with pretty good seats at the stadium. After the game, the press is outside and grabs them. Oh, what'd you think of the game? You're going to hear something completely different. Their point of view, their experience, mind you, again, the exact same event. Completely different experience, completely different point of view. Now you take that person way up in the nosebleed seats, same thing. And even more distant, their perspective is going to be even more removed than the other 3. If we really want to get a good grid for exactly what it was like in that stadium and in that game, you have to listen to all 4 people, and you have to understand and value what all 4 people have to say. You get the player talking about the game right next to the person who is in the nosebleed seats, and they might sound completely contradictory. They're talking about the same event. And the person in the nosebleed seat says, this is what I saw. This is what was happening in the second quarter on that play. This is what took place. The player sitting right next to him, listen, the player's like, that's not what happened at all. Let me explain to you what happened. Sometimes we got to understand both are right. They're just different. perspectives.